Hey everybody, what's up? It's me, it's Pete, and I'm back with another edition of Pete Plays Tyranny. And today, we are on our way to talk to the voices of Rat. We've completed all the quests in front of us, and now Rat calls upon us. We also have a side quest to pick up, which is Sanguinari asked us to do something, so we're gonna go talk to her. Wherever she may be.
Can't do that.
Sanguinari, where may you be? So yeah, we left off. We had finished a bunch of shit, and then we that was about it. We leveled up a bunch, did some other things, and they were all really, we've been doing really good. After we did really good, like things were going well. Where the fuck is Sanguinari? So Horde, Splinter, Horde. Maybe she's over here. Horde, Vex. Lyric. Dude, none of you guys matter. The only person I want to see is Sanguinari. Wish after you explore the area, they'd just show it to you. I guess maybe she's over the bridge. Unless I missed her over here, but... Scarred Fury, Bloodhound. Horde. Scarred Fury, Seven Toes. I guess we'll get her on the way out. Let's go talk to the voices. The voices of Rat regards you with an unreadable expression. You're back! What do you think of our throne? As much as we hate a cold, unmoving chair, this one suits us. Without a spot to plant ourselves, we would pace the length of the old walls every day in contemplation. What do you need to know? We're dizzy with the answers. I'm ready to report on my activities. Your success at Lethian's Crossing was a work of brilliance. The forge-bound master is in our hands, and the secret of her craft within reach. Soon our howling masses will shirk their bronze sticks and take up unforgiving iron. Your work in Lethian's Crossing has made us strong. We can feel it. Soon enough, every corner of the tiers will be draped in red. Another matter has come to our attention, which will speed the process to the only inevitable end. What's next? The time has come to handle matters in our home region. As you have no doubt noticed, the Edict of Stone has wreaked havoc on these once fertile lands. Our Scarlet Chorus recruits returned from the war hungry for provisions, but we have none to offer while the lands are thus blighted. The Archon Cairn lies in the Stone Sea, clinging to life with both of his petrified claws. If he would simply allow death to take him, the edict would be resolved and our troubles at an end. Kill the incompetent fossil however you can. He is flanked by adoring ear-shaker mages, but they should prove no challenge to the likes of you. Find our agent, Misery, in the ruined city of Halfgate. She will instruct you further. She has disappointed us to no end with her performance in the region so far. If you cannot squeeze some usefulness out of her, then I'm afraid her time in our choir has come to an end. Tell me about the Edict of Stone. Kairos brought down the edict to execute the rebellious, misguided Archon. It would seem Karen is just tough enough to endure the torments of the edict, but only barely. And while the Archon persists in surviving, the edict ruins the land. If Karen were to be put out of his misery, the Edict of Stone should subside. We could then set our serfs to toil, and grew a bounty to feed our ever-growing chorus. Tell me about the Stone Sea. Our wretched little home was once the breadbasket of the realm. These days, it is a pitted and treacherous catastrophe waiting to happen. An improvement, we think, but hardly a convenient one. A tribe of beastmen roam these lands, unshackled from the bonds of their human masters. These days, they have no love for our kind. So take care. How's Karen able to endure the Edict of Stone? Karen is hardly the deadliest Archon ever to walk Terratus, but he's certainly one of the toughest. His refusal to die, even in the face of Kairos' magic, is an impressive display of defiance, but an utterly futile one. And he clings to life by a mere thread. Unable to move, unable to speak, truly a sad state that only a traitor deserves. Killing him would be a true act of mercy, your good deed for the weak. What tribe of beastmen? They call themselves Stone Stalkers, strong, willful, and reeking of sex. We can't help but adore the creatures. We long for an opportunity to learn from one of their mightier specimens. We had in mind their prima, a fearsome mystic known as Hundredblood. Have I sent you anyone who didn't end up on a pike or missing? What a ridiculous question, Fatebinder. We're horrified that you would even ask. Audacity doesn't suit you at all. The flames about his collar form sharp angles, and he says nothing more. Okay, I'll head deeper into the Stone Sea. Don't forget to bring us a souvenir of your travels. Cacophony has its charm, but we are always seeking outside amusements.
Sorry, I can't.
I got a reputation ability. Extinguish. Okay, where... Sanguinari. Where the fuck are you, dude? I swear I found you over here. Oh, there she is. She's just blending in. Is it done then? Have you killed them? Yes, I killed the Oathbound and avenged your slain sisters. She crosses her arm and nods slowly. Her chest expands as she takes in a deep breath. But when she blows it out, she sounds utterly empty. Thought it had made me happier to know, you know, that they got what they were worth. But Kairos be damned if my leg doesn't just hurt. Okay.
Sorry, I can't.
We've got to go to the Stone Sea. And perform Karen's final song. Ooh, we got a missive. Tunon wants me at Bastard City. Okay. Word reached the court that you had dealt with the seediest mercenaries claiming for themselves the mantle of defenders of Lethian's Crossing. You have the gratitude of both myself and the Overlord. The disruptions in the settlement long stymied the production of iron goods for the war effort. Forge Master Zednya personally thanked me for your intervention. Congratulations. The Forge-bound Guild are a strong and tireless ally to possess. Okay. I've got to return back to Bastard City. I guess I'll do that first. Halfgate's like right there though, but where's Bastard City? God. 4 days, 3, whatever. I don't know if it matters. Travel time hasn't seemed to matter too much. It's been a while. It's been like a week, probably, since I played any Tyranny. Bunch of other CRPGs coming out right now that I'm interested in, but probably won't have time to play. Like Divinity 2 is out, but I still haven't played Divinity 1. I want to play Divinity 2 first, so.
You return as summoned. Despite the weight of responsibility on your shoulders, the court appreciates your devotion to our good work. It should come as no surprise that your activities are closely monitored. As an extension of Kairos' law on the frontier, your progress is a topic of some interest.
Tunon pauses to regard you with an intense stare.
To the chaos of this civil war, not enough time has passed for me to expect any significant progress, but I am curious about your findings all the same. I want to make sure your time outside the court's shadow is being used effectively. The Scarlet Chorus sing of your name across the tiers. You must have taken some brutal measures to earn their interest. No small feat. No matter what terrors you inflict on this fallen realm, that you continue to observe the voices of Nerat. If he has sowed chaos in this campaign, the court would know of it.
I'm happy to be an asset to Kairos' forces, and to pull chaos out by the root.
That is all this court has ever demanded of you. You do well to recall your duties with such exacting precision. You have spent some time on your own recognizance. The efforts of our military and the challenges they face should be no mystery to you. Tell me, are you any closer to determining which of the Archons is at fault for the troubles of this campaign?
It's Graven Ash. I'm loyal.
The Archon of War prides himself on his loyalty, and the skilled fighters he trains have turned the tides of this war on a number of occasions. On what grounds do you make this claim?
I found evidence in Lethian's Crossing that the disfavored spilled first blood in the Civil War. The adjudicator weighs your statement with interest. The space between the eyes of his mask narrows, though the change is too gradual for you to follow.
Evidence is hallowed to the court. I respect your diligence in collecting it, Fatebinder. You bring hope to my ambitions of bringing order to this divisive campaign. Be sure that you remember this and any other evidence you identify when you are called upon to present your... I look forward to receiving your full report. I will summon you again at the appropriate time.
Okay. So we updated him. I got a new missive from him immediately. Fatebinder, allow me to be the first to congratulate you on resolving the situation at the Burning Library. Fatebinder Regulus could not be more pleased by your choice to preserve the texts and relics of the old sages, or perhaps he's overjoyed that their grip on the library is now entirely broken. In either case, he almost borders on giddy. Almost. I do not share his loathing of the old guild. They built their own pyre on their hubris. True, but my opposition to them remains purely professional. It gladdens me that not their every myriad secret met the flame. I even suspect that an ambitious Fatebinder would have collected a few stray scraps of lore, perhaps as much as they could carry out. I hope you soon make an effort to join us at court in the Bastard City. I often feel that it has been too long since we last whispered in the darker corners of Terratus. We've experienced so many of them as late. Perhaps I can provide illumination. Kaleo. I need to talk to Kaleo. On the subject of spires. Dear Baasvik, based on what you've told me, it seems a stretch to believe these events are mere coincidence or circumstance. Kairos' edict of execution was a setup for someone to claim Ascension Hall. To think that Kairos did not know that what would happen is a massive underestimation of the Overlord's long view. You have been thrust into the arena of the mighty. Your options are retreat into obscurity, suicide, or rising to the occasion. I suggest the third option. If I were you, I would use my connection to the spires to see if they will awaken to my presence. Every tiersman sees the spire in the horizon. If you know you are the master of the spires, they will see you each time they look to the sunrise or sunset. Foster a reputation for power. Make others fear you. This is what I've seen Kairos and every living Archon do for as long as I've lived, and there's reasons for this. There's the practical case that power and a reputation insulate you from threats. But there's the lesser-known element that I can't prove, but I know in my heart to be true. The fear and love of others will strengthen your magic. This last part I've inferred from my discussions with Bleed and Mark. In the few times he has spoken of his gruesome work of slaying those who might rise to the threat of the Overlord, he's hinted that it's easier to kill the rogue elements before they become famed and fearsome. In my lifetime, I saw Graven Ash change from an unknown militiaman to a fearsome general. I can assure you, he did not have the power to shield his warriors in those days when he was without title or reputation. The Archons will never, ever discuss the origin of their power, because such knowledge might be used against them. But I have known all the Archons to be obsessed with the presentation of power. Your connection to the Spires will all but guarantee the Archons will want to control and destroy you. It's a question of when, not if. Start thinking and acting like an Archon. As far as I'm concerned, you are an Archon, the Archon of the Spires. We are quick to place labels on powers we easily spot, and history is replete with Archons fire and ice. It is foolish to think that there must be a word for a thing before an Archon can control it. Other way around. The Archons show us what is possible, and we must step to their dance. Ask about the Archons and how they've risen to power. Dear Mythosis, I appreciate the insight and am honored by your vote of confidence. Your missive made mention of Graven Ash and how you've known him since before he wore the title of Archon of War. Can you tell me of what you observed of his rise to power? If I am indeed an Archon, it's safe to say I wasn't born knowing what I can or can't do, and it stands to reason I might learn something from the stories of the other Archons. Baasvik. Send it. Status report. I guess I've got to show up to Tunon again. This may just be a stacking thing. Kaleo wanted to speak to me. Baasvik, I see you've returned to the fold. Your exploits in Vendrian's Well are the matter of some discussion. The Fatebinder of Balance regards you with a discerning eye, and for a moment you feel as if she's trying to peer into the very depths of your mind. What can I do for you? Kaleo touches a gentle hand to your shoulder. Has anything happened while I was away? Rogalis traveled to the Vellum Citadel to secure the archives for our gracious overlord. The sages there proved more stubborn than we anticipated, so Rogalis was forced to proclaim Kairos' Edict of Fire, consuming the Citadel in a gulf of eternal flames. A sad affair. You seem to know much of my actions. Have you been spying on me? Don't act so surprised. It's my duty to ensure that those who operate under the Adjudicator's name adhere to the spirit of his law, if not the very letter. And those who don't will be dealt with, swiftly and efficiently. At the point of Bleed Mark's blade, the Fatebinder slips a slim dagger from folds of her purple garb, flipping the weapons almost idly in the air. Of course, that is assuming I don't dispatch them first. One sec, I gotta close this. Okay. I take my duty seriously, and I'm very, very good at it. How have you occupied your time in the Bastard City? Tunon sends me on assignments here and there. I settle disputes between the locals when the Adjudicator is otherwise occupied. She smirks. Everything from trade disagreements to pushing chorus squatters out of basements. Real rewarding work. She waves it off. The glory of war is not an honor reserved for the likes of us. We're the fish swimming in Tunon's wake, picking up scraps along the way. We're rather large and imposing compared to the bottom feeders of the tiers, but fish all the same. I'd like to know more about Tunon. Tunon is our overlord's fair and exacting adjudicator. He speaks with the voice of Kairos' law, and his word is judgment. All of this and more you can learn by asking him yourself. Go on. Or does he intimidate you still? She chuckles softly. I jest, of course. You wrote that you could illuminate the darker corners of Terratus. She glances at your cadre. In a private missive, yes. There are things I won't discuss within the hearing of outside ears. Address your followers. I need to speak to the Fatebinder privately. I suppose not even every conversation needs to be recorded. The sage shuffles away. The hulking man shrugs. As you wish. He takes up position outside of hearing range, standing just shy of at attention. Suit yourself. She moves lightly away, footsteps soundless on a marble floor. A sly smile dimples her left cheek. I confess to no small amount of curiosity. I peek into my share of shadows, and sometimes I scrounge up a secret. What excites your interest? I'd like to discuss the Archons and their forces. Entirely understandable given the circumstances. How can I enlighten you? Why do the Archons have such unusual names? Is yours so typical? She asked, palms offered, followed by a shrug. Tunon claims that his name has always been Tunon, much as he expects us to only carry out our service without resorting to sobriquets or pseudonyms. Our Archon of War was only Ash before Kairos added Graven, and Karen, she lapses into a momentary considered silence. I've always suspected that was the Overlord's private joke. She shakes her head as if rattling the idea free. Suffice it to say, when you draw on that much attention, you're called what the Overlord calls you. It's enough about the Archons. What next then, my curious friend? Wanted to ask you about the rest of Terratus. I've done more than a little traveling in my role as Tunon's agent. What would you know? What can you tell me about the lands beyond the Tiers? Well, across the isthmus north of the Gates of Judgment, you'll find the Northern Empire, which is large enough to be the Middle Empire to some, but there's no accounting for how borders expand over time. From the Northern Empire, there's Cardinalos to the east, the Echo Lands, the Reminadu Protectorate to the south. But I've never journeyed beyond that. Maybe sometime before I'll die, I'll see the lands far east, where Kairos was born. However, I doubt my service to Tunon will ever allow the luxury of traveling for a few years just to see Terratus. Do you know any legends from the rest of Terratus? The Fatebinder frowns. That can be a dangerous question, Baasvik. If you're asking stories of Archons, great warriors, or those who have defied the Overlord, I direct you to Rogalis or Archon Tunon. Maybe even the voice of Nerad, if you can stomach the company. Or I'm sure your pet sage would be happy to enlighten you. I can't imagine why else you might shelter him, if not for historical commentary. But if you seek the superstitious drivel that kingdoms tend to cling to before the Overlord comes to sweep it away in favor of order and reason, well, Kairos forbids that knowledge for a reason. I recommend against the pursuit of folklore on general principle. I thought you might have an interesting take on matters arcane. When you came to me, don't let the Fatebinder of the Lord know. He'll never forgive you. What answers do you seek? What exactly are the Bane? You're as experienced with them now as almost anyone. Nobody's certain where they come from or why. We know they're attracted to magic, but also weak to it. They tend to congregate in the old walls, but whether they go there seeking arcane power or if they come from there, that's something only the Overlord knows. I personally believe that if they live there, happy as a beast in blood, until something disturbs them, like wasp in a hive. What can you tell me about the spires? You've awakened a spire. Look out from its height upon the tiers below. I would think you could tell me more about them than the converse. I suppose I can tell you that they exist across the whole of the Overlord's dominion. Dozens of them, jutting up from the lands and grasping at the sky. They can certainly be toppled. There are a handful of ruined spires in the Empire. Terratus has changed since they were constructed. Some spires have been swallowed by the mountains, others by the sea. There's one sticking out of the water off the coast of the islands due north of here. I hope to see it someday. What do you know of the sigils and their casting? I'm a practical magician, not a theorist. If you're looking for the wisps of magic, I'd direct you to Rogalis. You know, I'm sure that sigils are derived from the personal marks of the Archons. My understanding is that it goes a bit deeper than that. That there's something of a question about whether the Archons are stampeding their will indelibly on Terratus or unearthing some hitherto unknown aspect of magic and giving shape to it. It's one of those questions that serve little pragmatic purpose. Some Archons, like occulted Jade of the Tidecasters, teach their sigils to followers, building a group of supporters. Other times, as in the case of Siren, the sigil is developed by those studying the Archon's works. In many cases, Archon Karens, for instance, it's a little of both. Most guilds guard their secrets closely, but secrets have a way of slipping free. The oldest sigils can be uncovered by those who know where to look. hidden within scrolls scrolled away in libraries or even at the larger markets. Why have we not been taught the sigils of Tunon or Bleeding Mark? Notice that, did you? I wouldn't presume to speculate on the Archon's motives, nor would I encourage you to. Quite the opposite, in fact. She taps her lip. It's probably for the best, honestly. The court of Fatebinders elicited enough fear among the citizenry, God, and envy among the Archons as is. More power could very well make our work more difficult rather than less. Do you know anything about the movement of the celestial sphere? She tucks a strand of hair behind her right ear. I'm no astrologist, but I have the basics. They're stars, which seem set in the firmament to the eye, yet shift with the seasons. They serve as a constant source of superstition among those who have yet to come under the Overlord's rule. They speak to the constellations as ascended. Archons and mythic monsters, she grins. All very illegal. The Overlord has dictated the proper names for the asterisms and the correct method in which to interpret their movements. Terratus Grave, of course, dominates the night sky. Locked in a place just above the rest of us interlopers slip silently from horizon to horizon each night. But everyone knows about them. A tidecaster may be able to tell you more, were one willingly to speak open. Other phenomena exist, of course, matters less well understood. The comets, planets, and an aurora, all beautiful and silent, useful in navigation and time measurement, and for the pale light they provide, but very little else. I'd like to pick your brain regarding lore historical. Who do you think built the old walls? The Overlord, obviously. She grins widely, but without teeth. Then she shakes her head. Doesn't matter. They're gone and we're not. Sure, it would be interesting to know, and if you ever find out, I hope you'll tell me. But there aren't enough things in the here and now to concern yourself over. Is there anything you can tell me about the sages? Fatebinder Regalis audibly harumphs before turning his back on the conversation. She chuckles. Besides the obvious antipathy that our compatriot holds for them, the school of Ink and Quill were an interesting bunch. Not wildly different from our own order, in my opinion. Like us, they observe and study, seek knowledge and arcane power, and cultivate some of the less obvious skills that aid in those endeavors. Sages as often know as well how to pick a lock or slip undetected through a manor as they know how to craft a missive or weave a cantrip. Had they not been so fucking selfish and short-sighted, they might have made admirable allies to her cause. A sigh escapes her. The School of Ink and Quill were but the last of the guilds, or schools, as the tiermen call their guilds, dedicated to recording their own little histories. Over the centuries, those local historians each met the advance of the Overlord. Some joined us, others perished. All now know Kairos' history. How do missives work exactly? Someone writes a letter on a page, someone else reads them. Information passes between them. Clever. Thank you, she bows. I try to keep my tongue sharp. If you're asking how missives get from one place to another, the short answer is a combination of birds and couriers. Many cities and strongholds keep an aviary, along with birds trained to ferry messages between specific locations. I don't know the details of that training, though I understand that it's very rewarding, she smiles. Maybe something to take up if I live long enough to retire. Surely birds can't get everywhere. When birds won't do, either because the recipient has no aviary or is on the road or at the lines, couriers run the missives from the nearest aviary to the communique's intended recipient. This is all assuming missives that aren't overly sensitive. Some missives must be hand-delivered by trusted agents, something I've been tasked with more than once. Early in the conquest of the tiers, the sages were trapped for similar duties. The sages are in some of the other magical guilds use birds specifically prepared with rituals that allow them to find the intended recipient of a missive, regardless of where they are in the tiers. All of this, though, is specific to this corner of the world. What have you learned about the tiers? They're a tad arid and a bit rocky, but you know that firsthand, she smiles. As for the history of the region, it's a peninsula isolated from the continental mainland both by the seas on 3 sides and the mountains to the north, and named for the geological strata that separate each region like a series of steps from the Bastard Tier in the north to Stalwart, and then the sea in the south. Those formations, in conjunction with things like the mountain ranges that cradle Apex, allowed for a number of culturally similar nation-states to form after humans first moved here centuries ago. Over time, some of the larger cities broke off from their kingdoms, defending themselves against the nobility's attempts to reclaim them. For the most part, it was chaos. Every family warred against its neighbor over anything they could disagree on. Land, family, honor, superstitions, the best color, the shiniest fish. She shakes her head. Not to mention their ridiculous beliefs about magic or the cultural roles of men and women. Sigh escapes her lung as she rubs the bridge of her nose between forefinger and thumb. Have you ever met Fatebinder Mythosis? She laughs. That old loon? Her eyes flicker to Tunon, then to Rogalis, and finally settle back on you. Sure, she's read an edict, maybe 2, in her time. Left her a bit rattled, I think. She's largely retired from active service, resting on accomplishments past while ensconced in the wealth that one can accrue as an agent of the court. Guess I half assumed she died already. She was dispensing justice back in the last conquest, so she must be over 100 by now. She slips into silence, considering. That's quite enough history at the moment. I might get your perspective on the Overlord. A dangerous interest. What questions plague you? What exactly is an edict? How is it that we can issue one for the Overlord? You've issued and broken them yourself. You felt that power. What do you think it was? Kairos speaking through me. That's probably not a bad way to look at it. Have you noticed any lingering effects? I'll use my conquest. I can't remember the last time the air felt truly still around me. She nods, scrutinizing your features, but says nothing in response. What edicts have you read? Most recently, the Edict of Stone against Karen last year. She brushes her lower lip with her fingertip. Each word I spoke shook the land, drawing moisture from me. I felt Karen's presence as he raged through the soldiers dispatched to stop him, and I felt him weakening under my onslaught. Under the overlords, rather. Not that I'm convinced that division existed in that moment. I was Kairos' mouthpiece, Kairos' tool. She shakes her head. I still wake with crust in my eyes. Even freshly laundered, my clothes bear a thin layer of dust. What do you think Kairos' end goal is in all this? To win, I suspect. What form that takes, I can make some guesses. But that's all they are. Thus far, the Overlord has always had some new front to set soldiers against, some new land to conquer and opponent to villainize. What's left when the entire world falls under your control? Do you start melting down swords into plows and devote yourself to developing the society you wanted to establish when you first set yourself to war? Do you seek out dissenters and make of them the new enemy? Or do you manufacture enemies from those most likely to challenge you? As if any of those choices would exclude the others. I won't pretend to know the Overlord's mind on this. I can only guess that it will be an interesting time. I have nothing else to ask. That's it. Concerns about the war. I'm less concerned about the armies than the Archons themselves. There's no order when the mountains collide. Who would you see as champion? Scarlet Chorus. Their ruthlessness will win the war. Strength in numbers. Who could ever hope to stand against the swelling multitude of the Chorus? She nods in approval. And that the army moves without tact, kills without thought, marches on half rations at best, and is subject to madness and brilliance in equal measure. Wars have been won with fewer advantages, though I wonder if the Scarlet Chorus is equal to the challenge. Goodbye. Well, we learned a bit there. That's good. I did enjoy that. I might talk to him next time I come in. Yeah, and him too. Does Tuna have more to say to me? Nope. Okay. Okay, actually I do think we'll have this conversation. I'll get my conversations out of the way now. I did get a new update here. I don't know what it was, but I guess we could hire a couple more in these spots. Just in case I ever want to, so we're fully recruited in those two places. That's cool. You can check out what edicts are happening. It's interesting. Got a lot of wrath with the Forge Bound. A lot of favor with Vendrian's Crossing. A lot of wrath. Plenty of wrath with the Vendrian Guard. Favor with the Bronze Brotherhood, interestingly enough. Sage's Guild, nobody cares. Not too much, not as much wrath as I'd expect with this favor. Tons of favor with them, with that Scarlet Course. Good with Lantry, pretty okay with Barrack. Good with Verse. They don't care about me. Tunon, not much. Graven Ash, just pure wrath. Boysonarat's pretty happy with me. Bleeding Mark, still in the middle. Okay, let's talk to Regalis. Tell me about some of the past Archons. Nox Maria, the Archon of Pestilence, was disliked in her circles. When she opened her eyes to see and her mouth to speak, it is said that flies would gust into the air, swarming so thick as to blacken the sky. She died in the 20th year of her birth, following a string of unusual and grotesque symptoms. Where did you study when you were younger? I've been a ward of the court for as long as I've been aware. As a child, I demonstrated wholly perfect recall. I absorbed all that Tunon and my tutors had to offer. I remember hating all the lectures and wishing I could learn at my pace. Funny how I envied the sages of the Tears, how they could spend their whole lives reading and never exhaust their library. Of course, now, the Vellum Citadel is nothing more than a burning waste. What do you think of the other Fatebinders? Be more specific. What's your opinion of the Fatebinder of War? Nunaval's keen, brash, and a hardy braggart with a fondness for bloodshed. He can be utterly unbearable at times. His justice is fair, even if he skews toward rather exacting and uncompromising punishments at times. What's your opinion of the Fatebinder of Balance? Kaleo is the finest among us. Her discernment is beyond reproach, and she's perhaps Tunon's favorite. She has a mind for suspicion and observation that makes others uneasy. We who operate within the confines of the law have nothing to fear, of course. What's your opinion of me? You have supported the war effort admirably, Baasvik. I must caution you to maintain your objectivity, however, lest that support collapse into sycophancy. You owe your fealty, first and foremost, to the Archon Tunon and the legal code he even-handedly enforces. The Fatebinder's lips curls between his hooked nose. You should concern yourself more with Kaleo's opinion of you and the respect you show our office. I suspect that you come dangerously close to earning her focused attention. Despite everything, you remain in the court's good graces for the moment. Tell me about the old walls in the Bane. Tell me about the old walls. We know little enough about the ancient structures, save that they predate all historical record. The forbidding ruins crisscross the tiers and north alike centuries before we raised our cities. The only one old enough to guess is likely Kairos. Tell me about the Bane. The Bane are found in the old walls, but much of their defining qualities still escape me. They are creatures of smoke, claw, and fang. If you find yourself unfortunate enough to fight one, remember that spells are effective against them, but grab the attention of others lurking near. Let's discuss something else. I'd like to know more about the tiers. The political entities of the tiers are essentially split between the Bastard tier, the Younger Realms, and the Free Cities. What would you like to know? Tell me about the Bastard tier. The Bastard tier is the northernmost of the tiers, and was the first to bow to Kairos' reign, though the knee they bent fell unwillingly. Kairos had his eye on the Bastard tier for many years before he marched on her capital city. This is the hub of trade and commerce. Claim the markets and the people will follow. I'm curious to know more about the Younger Realms. The Younger Realms sprawl the middle and southernmost tiers and can be logged as follows: Apex, Azure, Haven, and Stalwart. Azure was renowned for its exceptional fertile land, which fed the whole of the tiers. That was before Kairos' Edict of Stone blighted the land. Stalwart is also worth mention, for it comprises the whole of the southernmost realm tier, and proves the toughest and most defensible of the realms. It is often said that the other realms will not fall while Stalwart yet stands. The local armies wages bitter war against the disfavored, though the Edict of Storms has cut off some of their best defenses. It is only a matter of time before Stalwart falls. What about the free cities? There are 3 free cities remaining: Last Harbor, Spiral's Mall, and Barrison Chains. The first and strongest of the free cities was the Setting Sun, which Kairos crushed in 429 with the Edict of Tumult. After that, the remaining free cities were quick to surrender. Let's talk about the sages. I heard rumors that you have slain Renata. Fatebinder rubs an ink-stained thumb against his left temple, as if to work away the lingering weariness. She was a horrid, manipulative woman, who contributed to ceaseless migraines with her incessant correspondence, so I find myself surprisingly pleased at the news. I assume she gave you just cause for a quarrel. Okay. Bye. I guess we still have this last guy to talk to, possibly. How were you singled out to become a Fatebinder, New Naval? Okay, I think we'll actually talk to New Naval later. I am feeling tired and would prefer to go do a quest before I end this. I'm sure I will be returning here. I may end it now. This is a main quest, so it could take some time. We'll see if there's an introductory part to this quest. If there is, we'll play that. If there's not, I'll probably call it a night. It's late.
Classic example of the Overlord's devastation. Like a battering ram, the Edict cleared everything in its path, including the farmlands we need to keep the army supplied.
If the Scarlet Chorus lack for provisions, they should stop expanding beyond their means. Short of that, you can eat each other for all I care.
I'd rather snap that lobster shell around you and skewer the fleshy bits underneath.
We just have to find somebody and talk to him, but I feel like this will take time. Let's go do our looting. I guess we can do that. Oh. Scarlet Chorus, ready your blades. Today we bathe in blood and victory. The disfavored lurk and creep in the shadows of tall rocks. They think we don't see them, but we're going to grind them to dust. We'll cleanse the disfavored from these lands. Our lands. We'll burn them with scarlet blood before the morrow. Ah, Fatebinder, welcome to Halfgate. Can't stay to speak. There is war to be waged. Unless, of course, you're interested in joining us. Not particularly, no. That's too bad. We could use a warrior of your skill. We're headed to Jagged Mall to crack a few skulls. Luckily for us, a group of disfavored have holed up in the shrine. It's past due we properly welcome them. Into a quick death. He scratches a pustule on the lobe of one ear. To be honest, I'm just excited to rip a few throats out. That does sound like fun. I don't suppose you'll need a few extra bodies to join the mayhem. I've gained fear with Barrack. No amount of disorder could phase Graven Ash's legions. If you expect the killing to be fun, you'll be in your grave before long. We'll see about that, my fine-plated and reeking friend. He grins, wild and unabashed. But the question is, will the Fatebinder be joining us? First, tell me about the place. Jagged Mall Shrine is sacred land to the local beast tribe due to the site's particular crystal formations. I, however, have my eyes on a more alluring trophy, one forged of flesh and blood and the screams of my enemies. I'll consider it. Be sure that you do, Fatebinder. be sure that you do. Well, as much as I enjoyed conversing with you, I have to set off. My war party's getting angsty. Antsy? God. Hope you will join us, Fatebinder. Okay. Is that a quest we could do? Interesting. Okay. Yeah, let's call it a night. I am tired. I think we're about 26 hours in. That's pretty great. As always, check out our website, indiegamesforboy.com. Check out our podcast, Mandate Radio. And check out my review channel, Baasvik Reviews. And until next time, this has been another edition of P Plays Tyranny. Have a good night. Bye.